Greetings, Star Trek Fleet Commanders. I am the Angry Rhino. So, Chakotay, yes, I've done a few Chakotay tests. He will be featured in this video, but this is more of an Armada Crew list, with the addition of a new Armada Crew and a request to do an Armada Crew video. I'm going to go over as many Armada Crews as I can think of. There are kind of a lot of them. Yes, there are probably several that are at the high end of the list as far as which ones are better, but some of that will depend on where you are at in your progression. So I'm going to try to cover a lot of them, or as many of them as I can. Oh, never mind this. This is just a thing for OBS to make sure I'm screen recording what I want to screen record. Okay, so let's start off with the Voyager crew. Chakotay is captain. His captain ability increases the number of shots. At max synergy, you get double the shots. His officer ability increases your crit chance. The Doctor has mitigation for his officer ability. Janeway has increased isolytic cascade, which is it's like isolytic damage, but it's even more isolytic damage, which is somewhat confusing. You do have B'Elanna Torres below deck just because she can add piercing, can result in more damage for you. Depends on where your base piercing is. It's also an option because you do want synergy with Chakotay. Now, if you've seen the test videos I did with Chakotay, you know that I don't like him on certain ships. Say, for instance, my Corvus here. My two little guns. And if you want to figure out how many shots and how much recharging and charging it does, click on the weapon itself, click this little eye, scroll down to the bottom, and it'll tell you. There's the charge time, that's the initial. There's the recharge time, that is the, after it shoots. And then shots, number of shots. So 1, it shoots every round. This gun is the same. So I have 2 weapons firing every round, which means 2 activations of Chakotay's officer ability each round. Now the big gun takes 2 rounds to charge and recharge, fires 3 shots. And this big gun fires last in the round. So for my big gun, 4 activations of Chakotay's critical chance increase. I'm not telling you to put Chakotay on your biggest ship. For me, it works out that way because of where my critical damage is. You can see it's up over 300%. Oh, let me make sure. Do not disturb, so no text pop up in my thing. Okay, where was that? My crit damage. My crit damage is high. So if I get a critical hit, that's like 3 shots. So what's better for me? More critical hits or 1 extra shot, or doubling the shots? Debatable. Does depend on your ship and what works for you. Like, say, hypothetically, an auger. You have 2 energy guns that fire every single round. So there is 2 activations per round. But the Obliterator, your big gun, fires at the beginning of the second round. So still only 2 activations. It's not 4 like mine. My Corvus here. And because Chakotay is limited to 2 rounds, that's as long as he'll stack. You can't get any more with an auger. You're going to have 2 activations and that's it. But it's your big gun. It's probably going to do more damage. Depends on the ship. So do you still want the extra shot with your obliterator? Or is the critical hit going to do you more good? Depends on your ships. So potentially you may still want Chakotay on an auger just because that obliterator will fire twice. Something you will have to play around with. Alright, let's come to this next crew. Now, as far as solo armadas go, this is my second biggest ship. So this is where I will want 5. The bigger the ship, the more piece of the pie of the rewards it'll get. Therefore, 5 will increase the loot more. Again, depending on where you're at and what level targets are hitting, is going to depend where you want 5. Because maybe putting a better killing Armada crew on the ship will allow you to punch up and therefore get more loot. So who do you run with 5? Got a few options here. Obviously, you can go for Synergy because her captain ability is mitigation, so get even more mitigation. It's her officer ability that gives you the bonus loot. So you could go with 6 of 11 for more piercing. You could go with this guy, 7 of 11. Yes, more mitigation with the Synergy. Also, his officer ability increases officer health, which is what gets you the mitigation with 5's captain ability. Now, if you are fighting Bolos, you could potentially use the Borg Queen. Because when fighting Bolos, she will increase your critical hit chance much the way Khan does, except Khan does it for all battles. So this is something I have been using here when I do Bolos. 5 Borg Queen Khan. Those give me more critical hits. And my second biggest ship for, more loot than if it was on my third biggest ship. It's back out of there. So, yes, that means Cisco is on my third biggest ship. Just the way it works out. Mostly because of the loot that I want. Now, the Borg Queen specifically said Borg solo armadas. Chakotay is all armadas. 5 is any battle. 6 is armadas, so he should work for solos. And the same with Chakotay. Doesn't specifically say solo and or group armadas, it just says armadas. Same with Cisco and O'Brien. They just work on armadas. Cisco has a captain ability of mitigation. So with Synergy, you get even more mitigation. His officer ability is crit chance. Critical hits again. Seems to be a theme going, right? And O'Brien has a chance to get you more shots. Now, this is most likely where I'm getting my hull breach from. Playing around with things, depending on how I feel. Do I sometimes put Lorca here? Yes. Haven't completely decided which one I like best. I prefer Gorkon when going on against armadas like this because I am increasing my crit chance. And therefore, Gorkon will give me hull breach when I get a critical hit. Yes, Lorca may or may not perform better for you. Depends. Sourcing for Lorca isn't great. Well, I guess that's not true. For most people, it's not great. For players like me, I think it's actually pretty good. Lorca is in the G4 Rare Armada chest. Now, at lower levels, it's not a great chest. For me, I can solo the 50 rares, so I can get lots of credits. Therefore, I pull that chest very regularly. But not everybody can. But Gorkon is pretty easily sourceable. Now, why may I not put my whole reach here and put it on my Pilum? Well, Bashir, max synergy with Cisco, may or may not be needed because mitigation does cap, but his officer ability, crit chance for solo armadas. More crit chance, more damage. The other two options I have down here for Cisco and synergy is Jadzia. Her officer ability increases your damage against solo armadas. Again, against solo armadas. Jadzia, Bashir, they're just against solo armadas. They don't work against normal armadas. Now, Jadzia is tough because I really like her as an officer. The problem is, when she's captain, you don't have a lot of option for mitigation. You really don't. Her captain ability is piercing, so can get lots of piercing with her. Now, she's not very good against the Bolos because Bolos have high mitigation. Very hard to, really no matter how much piercing, really hard to negate that high piercing for them. So, I don't end up using her a lot. If I could put 4 or 5 ships in a solo armada, yeah, I'd probably use her a lot more, but you can't, at least as of yet. I do suspect there will be something in the future to increase the number of ships you can use in a solo armada. I do have Founder or Changeling or Kira or whoever you want to say this bitch is. The Spy. This was the Spy from that event. Her ability, and let's read it because I'm sure not that many people are familiar with it. She works a lot like 6 of 11, where 6 of 11 increases your piercing. Changeling, okay, they call this person Changeling Kira. Could be just Changeling or Founder. Really looks like the Founder from the TV show. But however, it decreases armor, shield deflection, dodge, mitigation. Decreases the mitigation of an armada every time you hit it with a weapon. So, while 6 of 11 just benefits your ship, Changeling Kira benefits all the ships because it affects the target. Again, it can be an option for you. Me, I'm more likely going to run my Hull Breacher here or Bashir. I have used Changeling. Haven't really decided which one I like best. And honestly, you could run that, and you could potentially run Bashir over here for more critical hits. Now, initially, you get the critical hits with Bashir, while as a Cisco or a Khan stacks. Yeah, I'm trying to go through this like a list, but there's really so many options with some of these. So, it's kind of hard to definitively say which one you should use. But, yeah, most of the time, I'm either going to run Bashir or my Hull Breacher there. All right, that's a disco. Note of this Discovery crew, Stamets as captain and Culber's officer ability increase your summon and jump efficiency. Don't know that we talk about that enough. All right, coming to an auger. It's not specifically for an auger. I did kind of go with something that you could use. This isn't an end-all be-all. It's just an example of something you can use. You saw I have 3 other ships with 3 other crews on them. So, okay, now pretend for one moment that this is not Scotty. This is Spock. You see, I have Spock on an away mission. So I just don't use Spock anymore. You can use Spock here. Spock. Let's put it back up because I feel like it's been a while since. Put this back up and actually talked about his ability. When the ship has morale, like say, Kirk can activate morale, Spock restores shield health by 750% of your officer defense. Now think about those numbers for a minute. If you can stack 67,000, multiply that by 7.5, what do you get? Yes, it is over 100,000, but if you have 6 million, is 100,000 around really doing anything for you? Not really. For me. For me, it's not. Have I used it when I was lower level, taking on smaller armadas? Yes, I absolutely used the shit out of it. Should you? You should if it works for you. But there will be a time where your shields will get big and you just won't get as much of a benefit out of it. You may potentially benefit from more mitigation, like say Zhao. He procs just like Spock when somebody activates morale on a ship, like a Kirk, or a Harry Kim from Below Decks. He increases your mitigation. And, I mean, mitigation is mitigation. Mitigation and shield restoration is survivability. Which version of survivability do you want? Here's something else you can use with your burn. And let's, for shits and giggles, put this. Yeah, Giorgio activates burn by some percent. This is the bridge crew I use for my Stella and Stella Armadas. Why? When you burn an opponent with Giorgio, Ash Tyler increases your damage by, at max tier, 100% of your officer attack. I can stack a lot of attack on my Stella. I can stack about 100,000. So, it's increasing my damage 100,000. Really what you want to use for Stellas. And Beverly, Captain ability, restores shield health by some amount, depending on your synergy, 250 of officer health. So, Stella shields are relatively low, so you can get benefit there. Her officer ability is adding mitigation through officer defense. That is something you can try, and I highly recommend using Beverly, Ash Tyler, and a burner to hit Stella Armadas. That really is the best way to take down those 45 epics. Yes, technically you can use D5 ships, but you kind of want to beat them with a Stella. Alright, let's come to this Enterprise. Here's another Kirk, so another person to put morale on. Yes, Enterprise, because it's the Enterprise's ship ability. Does Spock increases or restores your shield health when you activate morale. Or as long as you have morale, heals the shields of the Enterprise by 25% whenever you get hit. So you do, I didn't want to do that. You do want to put morale on your Enterprise. And I just put Beverly here, not because I'm saying you need her on an Enterprise, but really twofold, to talk about the TNG group and how they can work against armadas, and also to call your attention to something. The Next Generation crew on their Enterprise, which you can have skins for, and there is an Enterprise D in the game, but none of them activate morale and therefore activate the ship ability. How ridiculous is that? That's real ridiculous. Data, I think, is very good for... Honestly, some of these Next Generation officers are very underrated. I think Data is very good. Maybe not very good. He's good against hostiles and armadas. Captain ability increases critical hits for against hostiles and armadas. So with synergy, it increases that. His officer ability increases your piercing. Now, it is also a base, so it may not be that much for you. Depends on the ship and what you're trying to kill. You do have Jean-Luc Picard. Jean-Luc Picard works a lot like OG Pike as far as his captain ability boosts officer abilities. His base is 20%. Yes, 20%. OG Pike is 40%. But Picard gains 100% for any officer in his group. So 120%. OG Pike just gains 80% from Moreau, for a total of 120%. So they're really the same as far as the captain abilities. Deanna Troi is someone you definitely want to use when going against rare or epic Cardassian armadas. Reduces the critical hit chance. Now you will want to find somebody for max synergy. So you can add 5% to this and get it to 20% reduction and completely negate their critical hits. Geordi. Geordi as captain increases your loot. Potential for that there. But a lot of times you will want some survivability. So here's your Beverly. She can add some synergy to the captain ability, but also give you your mitigation. Alright, we're running kind of long here, but I think we're getting towards the end. And to continue the Next Generation, Riker. His captain ability. Every round he increases your damage by 100%. That's base. That is without synergy. I think you get, was it 20 or 30% with synergy? Now this absolutely can be good for you. This absolutely can help you win in an armada. Is it the first, second, or third, because of solos, best crew you can field? For me, no, I don't think so. It's probably maybe the fourth, maybe fifth best. But what officers do you have? Different players are going to have different ones. So again, just trying to cover all of them. Now with Riker, Geordi, and Deanna Troi, they do have an officer ability that increases damage against faction, hostiles, and armadas. They will be faction specific. Riker will deal increased damage to Federation. Geordi will increase damage to Klingon. Troi will increase damage to Romulans. Can be beneficial to you. Again, depends on what you're trying to kill. Now here I have Lorca. Again, hold reach. Now, somebody we used to use a lot. Really don't use too much anymore, but she still works. She still can work for you. Somebody can potentially, if you're running a group armada, one person needs to put hold reach on the armada. Everyone else can run just Killy. And by Killy, I mean Tilly, but Terran Empire Tilly. So, Killy. That was her, pretty sure that was her nickname in the show, so that's what we just call her. Instead of saying Blue Tilly, that sounds kind of weird. Every round, there's hull breach, and yes, this also does work in PvP. Increase the mitigation by 100% of your officer health. This 100% is at max. Not everybody has it, but so she absolutely can increase your mitigation. It does take a while to increase, but mitigation caps, and depending on how much health you can stack may not matter, but can be really beneficial in group armadas because you wouldn't need Lorca here. If one person brings Lorca and it's not you, then you don't need Lorca. You can put somebody else. Now I have Gorkon and Galron here. Are they great for an armada? No, but again, how many ships are you fielding? And what officers do you have? Their captain ability isn't that good. It's just a flat increase on an energy or kinetic weapon. It does work, yes, but it's not that much. Now at certain tiers here, 1100% of officer health to shield deflection. Keep note that it isn't armor, shield deflection, and dodge. It is just shield deflection. So it will be a little less because you're only increasing the one. But it is 1100%. Remember, my Beverly was 300% to armor, shield deflection, and dodge. Multiply that by 3 because it's 300% to each, and they equal about 900%. 900% bigger or smaller than 1100%. Could Galron or Martok get you more mitigation? Depends on you. And yes, they're going to be different. You see Martok, 1100% crew defense to dodge. But AL is very similar, but captain ability not as good, and officer ability is armor. Again, they can work for you. They may not. That isn't what I wanted. This is what I wanted. Thank you. Now, OG Pike. I did start to explain this. He does increase officer abilities. Does it work for Lorca? Yes. Does it work for Giorgio? Yes. So can you increase the amount of times you put on a hull breach or a burn? Yes. You know it works because it works for Tal as well. That is for base defense. So, and why I have Pike here to increase something like a hull breach or a burn, strictly a support vessel, is because his captain ability is higher than Picard's. Picard was at 20%. Pike is at 40%. So that is going to increase it more if you just use him because, well, shit. I want to talk about, who's this? Eurydice, Got her on an away mission. I have her at max tier. So at max tier, it's 75%. What is 40% of 75%? I don't know, but it ends up being more than 100%, which is what you need. So every time I have Eurydice on my ship and my shields are depleted, they come back at 5%. So potentially on this support ship, I can run Pike, Eurydice, Lorca, and gain some survivability to my support ship that is increasing my hull breach chance. Now, you absolutely can run Pike, Moreau, Eurydice, and have the same effect, but that's all it is. It's essentially just a meat shield. It's not a meat shield plus a support ship. What's going to work best for you? Again, all I can really do is show you some of these options. Yes, there's a shit ton of options, and it took me 30 minutes to get through them. So that should tell you why I sat here and did this from the officer selection screen instead of going through an armada. How long would that have taken? It would have taken a long time. It took me 30 minutes just to talk about the officers and not show you what they're in action doing. Be a long time. Hopefully, I did what I wanted to do with this video and give you many options for your Armada crew. I tried at best to go left to right, as far as which ones I think are better. Some of that, especially like this crew, Kirk, Spock, is really level based, but it's really good, especially if you're a lower level. I do think Chakotay has replaced Sisko as the best Armada killing captain. Yes, I do put Sisko on my third biggest ship. That is because I do want some loot gain. I do want a little more loot gain. That is just an opinion. So my biggest ship with my best Armada killer. My second biggest ship with my best loot gainer. And then my third ship with my second best Armada killer. That is what I do. I feel where my level is and where my chest requirements are, I feel that's the best for me. Where are you at? I don't know. I generally believe that punching up is going to get you more loot than staying closer to your level and running loot crews. So, potentially moving your loot crew to your second or third best ship and putting your best Armada killer on your biggest ship and maybe your second best Armada killer on your second biggest ship, will that allow you to punch up and therefore get the bigger base reward? Probably. In my opinion, I think you will get more loot that way. But some experimentation is required from you. Comment below. Do you have a suggestion for an Armada crew that I did not cover? I tried to cover all of them. Second, what do you think is best? Especially for doing solo Armadas. Do you think it's better to stay a little bit closer to your level and using a heavy loot crew? Or go up a level or two, up a system or two, and go with those big Armada killers? Can be a little different depending on your level and your research and what ships you're using. But I really think going bigger killing bigger is going to get you more loot. All right, let's get out of here. Long enough. Be sure to like and subscribe. I am the Angry Rhino. Shields up, Commanders.